fact of the matter, even they would say, yeah, we got to quit killing babies. That ain't good for America.
Right.
Even they would say that. They would say, yeah, this LGBT thing is just turning every child into a pervert. I mean, even they would say that this is murder and perversion that he's standing up for.
Right.
What are we standing up for? The ability, the freedom to do what's right as God defines that right.
God's the ultimate author of liberty.
We don't want government to stand between us and our freedom to do what is right.
What's with the Biden speech? The blood-red background, soldiers with folded hands in front of Constitution Hall, Biden's fiery rhetoric against half the population. I titled this podcast, The Biden Speech and Civil War. Welcome to the Bible Nation podcast. I'm Doug Levesque here with Pastor Jason Georges from Emmanuel Baptist Church in Corona, Michigan, and Mr. Tony Nash from AZ Business Solutions in Owasso, Michigan. We're here to push the Bible into culture and to have a biblical perspective of what's going on. The best culture is a Bible culture. It's proven, and it works. Great to have you here today. Season 2, Episode 11, The Biden Speech and Civil War. Guys, did you see this speech? Did you see the president in here? One of the questions I had for you was, what was the purpose of this speech? I mean, was it to pass a bill? Was it to better the economy? Was it usually a president gives a speech on an occasion in front of Constitutional Hall? You know, there's some reason for it, but what was the occasion? What's the proposition of what was going on?
Well, certainly unclear. A lot of conjecture about what it was, but it doesn't seem there was a clear objective.
I mean, it just looks weird.
Yeah,
it looks weird. The timing's weird. I mean, all kinds of things are going crazy. We've got all kinds of enemies and issues, and yet this comes up as almost a war speech. And the fiery rhetoric of it is Hitler-esque with lights and military and fiery rhetoric. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it just seemed like he was trying to incite something. There was a proposition to this, and the media kind of spun it around for 3 days going, this is crazy, and then moved on because Biden has even more crazy to offer there. But I think he was inviting us to do a podcast on it. That's what I think.
That sounds about right.
He was helping us generate content.
Goading us.
I think Kamala said, hey, there's these 3 crazy guys up in Michigan, and
they need content.
Let's do something for content on that. Yeah, absolutely. So let's start off, and let's just listen to the beginning part of his speech and his rhetoric.
Yeah. Hail to the chief.
Yeah, it all looks good, right? I mean, nothing wrong. I mean,
other than he can barely walk down the steps.
And you know, Trump got in a lot of trouble for using military and wanting to use military.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't understand the red backdrop.
Yeah, and as he speaks, it's going to get darker and it's going to get redder. So I mean, what's with the?
Yeah, certainly intentional.
Right. I love "Hail to the Chief." I love that song. It's good. It's good. Yep. Gotta kiss the
I'm
first
Jill
lady.
Biden's husband.
Yep. Here we go. Bad to the bone, Joe.
My fellow Americans.
Oh,
there you go. Look
got
at
COVID.
Dark.
Please, if you have a seat.
Dark and look at it. It goes dark behind you. I mean,
I speak to you
theatrics.
tonight
Yeah,
from
very
sacred
ominous.
ground in America.
Sacred speech.
Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Holy.
And then we get interrupted with an ad.
Cow, that's cold.
So we need you to subscribe to the BNS podcast so we can afford the premium account of YouTube without the ads.
More than 2 centuries ago.
Yeah, here we go.
With an idea.
He needs a lozenge.
Among nations. That in America, we're all created equal. This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With 3 simple words: we the people. We the people.
You know, we the people is considered one of the symbolisms of domestic terrorism.
One of
the top
the FBI
symbols.
did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need to investigate Joe.
Upon which this nation is built. They're how we became the greatest nation on earth. They're why.
I wonder if there's anyone there listening to him.
Yeah,
America has
he's
been
known
a
for
beacon
that.
to the world. But But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault.
This is the proposition.
We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise.
Equality and democracy.
Right.
So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can
Right.
to the nation
As I can.
about the threats we face,
Okay. Proposition.
about the power
What's
we
the threat?
have in our own hands
Equality and democracy
to
under
meet
threat.
these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it. We must never forget, we the people are the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago. We the people have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here.
Trying to tie the
Independence
past
Hall.
to today. Trying to
Flame.
tie equality and
Lit our
democracy
way
of
through
today
revolution,
with federal republic.
Civil War,
Yes.
suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns. Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free and just. That is the work of my presidency, a mission
Presidency.
I believe in with my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
Yeah, see, there we
Yeah.
go. You can stop
Yeah.
it right
No.
there. Okay, so there's a proposition. What's not normal?
Right.
And he's standing here at Independence Hall, and he's rolling up the Constitution and holding it up
Yeah.
as the foundation for what he stands for and what he's about to speak on. And yet he's weaponizing this thing and making it a tool of his definition
Right.
of equality and
Democracy.
and of freedom. And yet our forefathers had an entirely different ideal. They wanted a representative republic, right?
Constitutional Republic.
Yeah, that was free, and their equality was equality under the law. It wasn't the kind of equality that people are talking about today. You know, it's the equality of gender. Well, you're equal under the law as a man and woman, but
Right.
most women can't run as fast as most men, right?
But his application is, and his faulty application is
Right.
the result of bad interpretation.
Right.
So the very introduction that he made to the Constitution, he missed the crux of it, or the Declaration of Independence,
Right.
because he's using the Declaration of Independence
Right.
here. It's that all men are created equal by their Creator.
There you go.
Right.
And so you miss the Creator.
Yeah.
In other words, men are not self-originated.
Right.
So therefore, men are not self-evolving. Men have an origins.
Right.
And we owe our rights to that origin, or we own our liberty to that origin. And so to completely cut that out is to then ultimately, inevitably, go the wrong direction.
Equality under the law really starts with equality under God.
Right.
And from God.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's all entirely skipped. And so what was strange about this was that he's coming out here, and it's serious. This is democracy under
Yeah.
threat. And it's dark. There's Marines back there, and the flag and the hall, and we're invoking the most sacred of things that's true to his soul.
Right.
And yet he's not resonating with even most people
Right.
in this. So, Joe, where are you coming from? I mean, 50 years
In office.
power
Yeah.
has corrupted you, and now you're using that power as a bully stick. And what came out of this was absolutely mind-boggling. People from other countries are like, America, we want to warn you, this is what happened in our country.
Right.
You know, when you start weaponizing something and politicizing it, you know, in this regard. And I'm not saying that Trump didn't
Sure.
act
Sure. Absolutely.
maybe immature, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
self-interested. This is even more than immature and self-interested. This is trying to use the power of the Marine Corps, the Constitution, all of our heritage to say that 50% of our population is out to get us, and they've got to be stopped. So, you know, I think the idea of weaponizing the Constitution against the population is unprecedented. And I thought that's one of the things that we should bring out here.
And it's unbecoming of the president.
Very unbecoming.
The tradition of the president, the role of the president, all for or almost 300 years has been to bring the country together.
Right.
Now, by leadership and influence, you're trying to send them in a direction. And so
Right.
your ideology, it paints your vision for the future.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you understood that the solemn responsibility of leading all of these people and not dividing them in half. So, our greatest presidents were those that navigated the treacherous waters of potential civil war or division into bringing it together. And so, from him to seed the sows, to sow seeds of discord. There you go. I'm speaking like him.
Yeah.
To sow the seeds of discord is very unbecoming of a president.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not by mistake. It is intentional.
Yeah.
The like you even talked about the aesthetics, the optics, everything that's there is on purpose. It has a meaning. It has an intention. Someone that's been in office for 50 years, in power, they know what they're saying. They know what they're doing. A lot of people say Joe Biden's being controlled and told what to say.
Sure.
But certainly he knows what's going on here. He
Right.
knows what's being said, and it's for a reason. It's for a purpose.
Yeah. And, I think, and I think this is done on both sides of the aisle, right? To use theatrics,
Absolutely.
the location, the lighting, the use of troops to create a tone. And, if you're a young person, maybe you don't have discernment. You're like, that's the president. That's the, hail to the chief. And that's this and that's this. And so then, it'd be like a television evangelist coming in and feigning a healing and then asking for money. You know what I mean? To try to bring about some sort of thing. And so just as a president, I pray for my president. This is disappointing. I'm sure all presidents, you could point out some mistakes that they made, but there has been a precedent by presidents to befriend the previous president, talk to them, wish them well, not interfere with what's going on, because the previous guy didn't interfere with me. And, Trump might have broke that precedent to some extent in causing division.
Didn't show up at the inauguration.
But then so many people, cities burned. The election was messed with, if not altogether, overturned. Sure. And then he comes on, rising on that sea and says, I'm going to unite everybody. And then comes out with a speech like this, which just shows how disingenuous it is. We want to believe our presidents.
Right.
Like we want to believe our dads or we want to believe our preachers. We want to believe that they're genuine and that they're, intent on being true. But this is altogether nefarious, and I hate it.
Well, and one of the biggest criticisms of Trump was that he was divisive, which
Right.
he was.
Sure.
He certainly was divisive. But how is this not as equally divisive or more? The
Right.
speech that he gives here is certainly taking a large segment of the population we're going to watch and calling them out and calling them a threat.
Yeah.
Well, and it's bad leadership. And so, a good leader leads. He creates unity by casting a unifying vision that everyone can get on board and go to.
Right.
A dictator, a bad leader,
Yes.
creates unity by removing the objectors, by cutting them off, by jailing them, by killing them, by isolating them or disenfranchising them.
Yeah. This is like socially canceling,
Yeah.
from the highest, thing. But it comes with even more vilifying, charges.
So if you kick everyone out, everyone left is going to agree with you. Like
Yeah.
if you kick out those that disagree with you, instead of seeing the disagreement as an opportunity. I was thinking also, visually, some presidents have used the visual very well. Reagan, I can think of speeches in Normandy. I can think of speeches in Berlin, tear down this wall. Where Reagan used the backdrop to present the vision for what he was saying in a well.
He's doing that.
Right.
He's using this heaviness, this drama to bring about this. And he's using that, to uplift his rhetoric. But then what are you saying? Are you saying let's end communism? Are you saying let's fix the threat at the border? Let's stop China? He's really using this to create a false narrative, number one, and protect abortion rights and gay rights and all these kinds of things. And then in doing so, calling 50% of the population a bunch of communist terrorists, that are trying to take over. And so not only is he weaponizing the Constitution, but he's vilifying Donald Trump. Easy to do, but he's doing this as enemy number one.
Right.
Like Trump he's going to challenge, he's the one that's undermining the elections. That's what he's saying now.
Yeah.
They're turning it back on him. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals was accuse the enemy with what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly what you're doing.
So you're cheating, but then you're accusing the enemy with what you're doing.
Right.
And this is right out of the Rules for Radicals handbook because, you messed with elections. Come on. And you're going to do it again. But you've been creating this narrative through this January 6th probe that's got nothing coming out of it, through all the constant charges of Trumpian personalities. And, so you're just trying to continue the narrative here and really make it a crucial point to vilify him, but not just him, because he only says Trump's name twice in this 24-minute speech. But he says MAGA Republicans, MAGA Republicans. Well, what is MAGA? Make America Great Again. Yeah. So, I mean, you make America great again. Are you saying that we're trying to undermine the Constitution? I mean, it's kind of what he's saying, and that we're some sort of danger to democracy. So let's go to that second one and listen to his charge on that.
With my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
Yeah.
By whose definition?
Right.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Go back to the proposition.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the very foundations. You're saying the Constitution?
Yeah. That's what you said. This was the foundation of where.
So this is the proposition of this speech.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would dare someone to go through Trump's speeches and see where he's challenging the foundations of the Constitution, the Declaration, and of America.
Or just read the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and see which platform better aligns with them.
Yeah.
I mean, just do
exactly.
that.
I'm not saying I'm not.
You're redefining the very documents.
I'm not going to defend Trump, but I'm certainly not going to defend Biden. And it's funny because after this, the 3-day spin that always comes out by left and right was what? Yeah. And the left was trying to defend Biden in this and some of the articles and news things. But like they couldn't do it. They were like, yeah, we don't really know. And then it kind of passed on. And so that's why I wanted to park and say, what's going on? We're the danger to democracy. Or Trump's the danger to democracy, and he keeps saying MAGA Republicans, MAGA Republicans, MAGA Republicans. To obviously, sometimes the best war is a war of words, and that's kind of what's, going on here. But, 50% of the population did vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And maybe they weren't all MAGA Republicans, but they aligned there. So this is a stupid political move. This might be telling Europeans and Chinese, that the elite and ruling power of America is more with you than they are with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, the question should be, who told him this was a good idea?
Right. Yeah.
Because he didn't just one day get up out of bed and say, you know what, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I have the energy to do this. I have the will to do this. Someone put the idea in his head that this is a good idea.
So this is political strategy, political drama, political rhetoric, all for a purpose coming from somewhere. And they're trying to say it's coming from Independence Hall and it's American and all that, but it's really not. This is the antithesis of that.
Right.
It's like they're holding up red and saying it's blue. And I mean, it's not. And, I think there were some news outlets that said, yeah, this is the strangeness of this.
Yeah.
But then the left was trying to defend something they couldn't because it seems confusing.
Well, it's very aggressive, right?
Right.
And it is what Donald Trump is often getting accused of, that he's speaking in code to his followers that they're going to go do something. So so when he goes in the election and says, we're going to kill him. Well, that's the same thing I would say to a football team as they're going to get out on the football field. Hey, let's go kill him.
Right.
Well, no one takes that and mean to that we're going to go kill somebody.
Right.
But Trump says it, and now, he's made threats against people. So he's using that same type of speech, and the media is willing to pipe up this rhetoric. So on one hand, we have this internal rhetoric of we need to fight against them. Right. And on the other hand, all of a sudden the Democrats or the media has become these hawks that are all but inciting nuclear war with Russia.
Right.
I mean, and these two things, these are the two psychological points that are coming to the human psyche right now, preparing us and getting us ready for the inevitable war.
Yes.
And, we are peace through strength.
Right.
Be strong so we don't have to fight a war, right? Be able to defend yourself so you don't have to get into a fight, whatnot. Right. But rather, here in this weakness, the American public is being conditioned to think that there is a coming war that's inevitable, and we might as well we have to do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's more strategic jump. And it's interesting because, Trump was accused of being strong on Putin and Russia and the Russian dossier, and nothing ever came of that, number one. And then he didn't want to give Zelensky money way back in the day before this war happened because he was like, what's the money going to the Biden family for? Why are we? And that, that got pushed under the rug as well. It's still kind of out there. And so whatever's going between Russia and Ukraine is playing itself out in the personalities of the presidents and their supposed personal corruptions, right? And whatever they're getting from there. And so this third thing that we're going to see is really then not just weaponizing the Constitution as something that it's not meant to be, vilifying half the population as the number one danger to democracy, but then also really and truly inciting a civic and political war, inciting political and civic violence. They must be stopped. So let's watch that third clip.
Than on himself.
MAGA forces are determined to take this country back.
MAGA forces?
Backwards to an America.
Listen to this, backwards.
Where there is no right to choose.
70s?
No right to privacy. No right to contraception. No right to marry who you love.
Biden.
No right to contraception? That's not true. No right to marry who you love. That's not true.
Right.
So, I mean, 3/4 of what he just said there is absolutely a bogus, bold-faced, stupid, idiotic lie.
Right.
But that's what people believe.
Let alone morally right.
Because it's built on the presupposition of a lie. So
Sure.
no right to marry marry who you love. No, you're allowed to marry whoever you want.
Right.
You're just not allowed to redefine love.
Right.
Right.
Or redefine marriage.
Right.
Redefine
So
marriage.
no. So then
Right.
and hence redefines marriage.
Right.
So yeah, you can marry whoever you want within the context of the definition of marriage.
Hence, Bible Nation, the best culture is a Bible culture. It's proven and it works. And so, yeah, there's culture wars going on, but we're not inciting killing anybody.
No.
And yet, we're going to get rid of Trump to the point of people died.
Well, and why does a Bible culture work? Because it provides immutable definitions to the terms that
Yes.
we use and concepts.
He who owns the vocabulary owns the argument, and they're confusing and muddying the vocabulary for sure, if not trying to own it. Yeah. So keep going with the MAGA forces.
Yeah.
Against Trump and his congressional supporters, referencing some Republicans who attacked the FBI following the search warrant executed on Trump's
Attack the
Mar-a-Lago home.
FBI.
Yeah.
There are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before, predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets.
That's what he's calling for.
Right.
This is inflammatory. It's dangerous.
What just
It's
happened?
against the rule of law.
Are you talking
It's
about
a-
yourself?
It's
We, the people, must say,
We the people.
this is not who we are.
So you're calling speech inflammatory as you speak in front of a dark red building.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And vilifying 50% of the population who voted for Trump.
Well, even people who are not Republicans or Trump, like Joe Rogan,
Right.
Dave Portnoy,
Right.
posted this picture
Right.
of this and said, "Imagine thinking this was a good idea." Like,
Yeah.
even they can see like this is means something.
Yeah.
This is definitely trying to incite some kind of a
Yeah.
reaction, and it just like you said earlier, even just for pure political strategy, it's crazy. It's stupid.
Yeah. And
So
so
there's a
such-
bigger agenda. There's a bigger
the
agenda.
people that are believing these bad definitions, truly believing them, and believing in a different America, they're the ones that say, I mean, like, the what are the four congressional ladies? What do they call that? The fearsome foursome there, or whatever. They're the ones saying we got to change the Constitution. I mean, there's a lot of people saying we got to change the Constitution, but it's not conservatives. It's leftists. It's people out of these leftist type organizations, and so. Yeah, this is pure hypocrisy.
Right.
And the President of the United States said he wanted to bring us together, but he just vilified me.
Right.
He just said, I must be stopped.
But it's hidden speech too, because we say trying to change the Constitution, and that's what they want. But he's not acting like that's what he's trying to do. He's actually holding the Constitution up as what is happening now is actually against the Constitution.
Right.
He's hiding his speech.
and that's what's important here, because what we are actually witnessing is the death of America.
Yeah.
Because America is an idea. And so the death of America will not be the ensuing civil war. It will not be the takeover of another country. The death of America will be when the American ideal, the spirit, has been squashed and killed and has been replaced with a different spirit, with a different idea.
They're reading the Constitution and they're redefinition.
Right, and we're not long from a new Constitution. So,
George Orwell, 1984, the book 1984, with the dystopic future, whatever he wrote it, in the 30s or something. He talks about this ongoing war, and the government has basically a politicization bureau that kind of gives people what they want them to think, right? And they call it doublespeak. And that's exactly what we're hearing there. Clinton used it, and It's a learned behavior, and it's something that socialists and communists have purpose to do for a long, long time, and it's come to America at the very highest because this is just rotten. So I also pulled up this article, and it is from the Wall Street Journal Opinion. They have a little broadcast called Potomac Watch, and Kyle Peterson asked Alyssa Finley, what did you make of the president's address Thursday? She says, I think it is easily one of the most divisive, if not the most polarizing speech that he has given. And in fact, that I have heard a president for as long as I've been living, that I've heard a president give. Donald Trump got a lot of criticism for his dark rhetoric around immigration. But in Biden's speech, he basically slandered half the country. He didn't call them fascist or semi-fascist, but he accused them of trying to tear down democracy, deny people equality or the right to vote, that they believe that the way to bring themselves up is by tearing other people down. He really, with broad brushstrokes, accused anyone who was criticizing his policies as a MAGA Republican. This is a guy who ran in 2020 on being a moderate, a compromiser, bringing people together. He did the opposite in this speech, even while he tried to say, well, I'm not really a president for the blue America or red America, echoing the famous line from Barack Obama. But again, he was very divisive, used a lot of straw men, just actually like Barack Obama did, but it was very caustic, and I don't think that that's actually going to play well with most Americans. And so Wall Street Journal, it's a conservative paper, but this is everybody's response. This was everybody's response. Washington Post and New York Times, etc. Like, what in the world just happened? I mean, it was very marked, but I think a lot of people don't listen that close. They don't have a strong attention span, and as long as something else happens next, here's the New Yorker magazine. The New Yorker, Joe Biden's "This is not normal" speech on the rising danger of MAGA Trumpists. The president calls out Trump and his Republicans, and they see red. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. That's how it starts.
Right.
So they picked that up. This is a liberal rag. The Republican Party is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. MAGA forces are determined to take the country backwards. I mean, that's very strong language. You could almost take MAGA forces or Donald Trump forces out there and put in communists, Nazis. You could put almost any other enemy in there.
The Rebel Alliance.
The Rebel Alliance, the Borg. I mean, you could kind of put anything in there. And
isn't it funny to say? I mean, the phrase "MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution." I mean, if anything, they probably worship the Constitution more than the Bible. Most Republicans that are not Christians, they not only respect the Constitution, but they hold it up above the Bible. Like this is it.
Actually, if we were to take a poll of when was the last time you read the Constitution, I guarantee you, Republicans far outweigh reading the Constitution more than Democrats.
And even the ones that aren't like biblical
Especially
Christians,
the MAGA Republicans.
Even the ones that aren't biblical Christians, are like live and let live type.
we hand it out at our rallies.
NASCAR Republicans or something.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
The fact of the matter, even they would say, yeah, we got to quit killing babies. That ain't good for America.
Right.
Even they would say that. They would say, yeah, this LGBT thing is just turning every child into a pervert. I mean, even they would say that this is murder and perversion that he's standing up for wholeheartedly and calling everybody else an enemy. And it's funny, this is election season, and I've seen some anti-Republican ads come out and really actually use the fact that this person said they were a Christian against abortion.
Oh yeah, the number one.
They're a Christian against abortion, and then they say, and they even took it off their platform, which is stupid because a Christian who's against abortion, who had it in their platform, who then took it out of their platform, just goes to show how stupid Republicans are.
Yeah. Well, and this political cycle, especially here in our state, the number one thing that the Democrats are using to attack the conservatives is the issue of abortion, as though because they support abortion, that is the biggest threat to a Republican being elected than any other issue. And yet it wasn't not too long ago where I think a majority of Americans could still say, yeah, killing babies is not really something we should do, whether they were Christian or not. But this has now become the main issue.
Yeah. For a long time, he says, we've reassured ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it is not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. I mean, that's war talk. Mm-hmm. Like, we're about to lose it, and MAGA people are taking it. Trump's not helping anything because he just doesn't quite seem to carry himself well at all, ever.
Because at the end of the day, he only cares about himself. I mean, not only. At the end of the day, he mostly cares about himself.
Yeah.
And so he always protects his ego.
In Philadelphia, Biden's speech focused on the continued battle for the soul of the nation, the principle he cited as the animating force for launching his third and ultimately successful bid for the White House. And then, of course, he just said, I'm coming out again. And this is going to be, foundationally, he's going to have to deal with. I mean, he'll probably deny it, you know. I've noticed, and I think this would be a great podcast or just a good study for someone to do, every time Biden has come out and says, I guarantee you, and makes a promise, 180 degrees opposite. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy is either believing his lies, you know, being told what to say and he doesn't really care about it, or he's purposefully speaking to somebody else. Mm-hmm. He's purposefully got another audience that he's talking to, and he's now an actor for somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
But usually when you have to stand on that kind of authority, I guarantee it's because you are lying. So the Bible says, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay.
Yes.
You just say, so usually when someone is trying to, when you don't believe them, what do they say? Well, I swear.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
And Trump was notorious for that. Believe me. I'm going to be the greatest. Believe me. He'd always say, believe me.
I'm probably the hugest that ever was.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to just kind of end with some questions, guys. Are there any historical precedents for such accusative and insightful speech? I mean, where do we have to go to look for this kind of thing in American history?
Yeah, in America.
American history, yeah, that's...
I mean, if you go back to the Revolution and you have guys talking about the king, we're rejecting monarchy and we're rejecting this king. I mean, that you can go back there. Maybe to the Civil War, if you have Northerners and Southerners saying, you know, they're damnable and, you know, we're righteous.
Yeah, but even Lincoln was careful.
Yeah.
Lincoln was careful in how he treated the South.
Well, you know, what do they call it when he was at Gettysburg and he gave his speech, and it was, you know, a short speech, but he basically said, these are all hallowed dead.
Yeah.
These are all hallowed dead. Mm-hmm. And, you know, with malice towards none, you know, I want to bring the country back together again. And he paid for it with his life, you know.
Right.
So where do we have to go back from that time? I mean, I'm sure there's some political rhetoric somewhere where somebody's saying something. I mean, it seems like we throw around everyone's a fascist, right? The left says the right's fascist, the right says the left's fascist, everyone's Hitler,
right?
You know, sort of thing. But this is
it's always
insightful beyond belief.
Yeah, it's always been done with innuendo.
Yeah,
right.
It's or humor, humor. You know, Reagan would use a joke. I mean, it was a humor. Okay, so we're going to be a little self-deprecating to kind of point out our political adversaries' shortcomings.
Yes.
But there was nothing ambiguous about this. This was very direct. You know, and when you identify a group like he does, MAGA Republicans, what you do, you're creating a target.
Yeah.
You're creating a target, and a gun needs a target.
And so then you got social media outformed. You got all different kinds of things that now think it's okay to target and vilify or poo-poo MAGA Republicans or anything like it. Right. Of course, anybody with a red hat has to be a bigoted, racist, gun-wearing,
homophobic.
I mean, they got to be all that.
All the terms.
And that's kind of.
And I'm offended by his speech, and I'm not a MAGA Republican.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't hold that moniker.
Right.
I'm not. I don't fly a Trump flag, and I wouldn't identify as that.
On the bigger,
and I think it's fair to point out. I think we have to point out that Trump, just as he appears to be leading by fear, right, getting people to be afraid of something in order to act against it. Trump did the same thing. Sure. Maybe not in this level. This is certainly, and even, you know, in the debates, right? You know, Trump was very critical of past administrations more than any other president had been. So that decorum, if we want to call it, had kind of started to slip down. And so I think, you know, as much as we would call it out in Biden, we've called it out in Trump before too.
We have.
We absolutely have.
Yeah, we have, and we weren't Trumpian in any stretch of the imagination. And we were calling out that this guy's dangerous, and Republicans, you got to be smarter than this.
Yeah, he makes us afraid of the extremists, as he would call it. And
with that said, we're trying to build a podcast audience, so we just make everyone mad.
Yeah,
that's right. Everybody.
Universally,
we're not for Biden. We're not for MAGA.
Right.
We're for the Bible.
We're for the Bible.
For the Bible. We're for the Bible.
All 400 of you. Thank you.
Yes.
So the historical precedent, I mean, is there, but we're saying this is a danger. This is unprecedented, and this speech is a marked point that we're going to remember. Now another question is, how were Americans meant to respond to that? How are we supposed to respond to that? To what purpose? Like, do you want pitchforks in the street going after Frankenstein?
Right.
You know, that's kind of to me the tone of what was there, not just show up and vote.
You know, and I can say this from the leading a church in a small community, from a pastoring perspective. There's always been, you know, in our community those that would like not be for us, not be for Emmanuel, would even I stand in direct opposition to everything those people are about.
Right.
Okay, fine. But there was no vitriol back or forth.
Right.
But over the last 2 years, the freedom in which people have been emboldened to say, come against, and literally, proverbially backhand you, slap you.
Yeah.
That's what we've lost. Yeah, that's what we've lost that, or that's what's happening. And so that's what this is intended to do. This is intended to do in your workplace. Yeah, be mean to that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
In your workplace, steal that guy's lunch.
Yeah.
In your workplace, bump into his car.
Don't do business with those people.
Right.
And even, cheat in the election. Cheat in the election because this is war.
Because it's a means to an end. It's a justified means to the end.
Yes. Yes. Last question is this: is there a threat of civil war? Who or what will prompt it or start it?
Well, maybe in their mind they think, maybe in Biden's mind or whoever's pulling the strings, they think if we can provoke enough really of the crazy rednecks to do something extreme, then we can put all of them in the same basket and really push it. Now, see, we told you these were the threat. And maybe that's what it is to go, because there are a few crazies out there that are ready, waiting for this civil war. Like they want it to happen. And if we can go those people, then we can put all of the MAGA Republicans or anyone that's a Republican in this basket. And now there's.
I've been in churches. I've been in 400 churches. I've never heard any white supremacist rhetoric in those churches. I've never heard any take over the government type rhetoric in there. But what it is okay, you have so many guys that are going to kidnap Whitmer. Well, then you turn out, well, 2/3 of those guys were FBI informants, and there's really only 2 guys that got charged with something, and what they got charged with wasn't much. I mean, it was an entrapment, and yet, it was a big deal and allowed Whitmer, number one, some favors, some media time, and then I can pass these new laws. I can put up a new fence around my house and all this kind of stuff. And so, you're gonna find 3 rednecks who have a pipe bomb.
Exactly.
And
I would say they're probably absent of Christ. Like they've missed that main formula.
Absolutely.
There. But if you incite them, if you entrap them, so if the FBI agents are here goading them, hey, wouldn't you? How about this? And you're fleshing out their. It's like pre-crime. It's like how do I get you to verbalize what you might have in your head, and that's really, hence is the danger of the civil war. You're asking about the precedent here. Is this a threat for civil war? This is I liken this to the American Revolution. So Lexington, the shot heard around the world. The beginning, the first shot. Okay, that shot was fired probably by a militiaman, so a patriot, because they had been pushed too far. Right. Now, they shot the first shot, and that's what they're hoping for. That's what Biden and them, but there's no shot to be heard if the British don't amass on that green.
Right.
So the British show up in force and leave and push on them.
Right.
Push on them.
And they were going after a couple leaders.
Right.
There was a couple leaders going after, which they weren't going to get. So then the other thing that really masked was going after guns and powder.
Oh, sure. So that's what. So what we're seeing here is we're not getting hit with the tip of the spear. We're getting this broad push that will finally cause somebody, or to break. And it'll be a MAGA.
Sam Adams.
They will break. They can't take it anymore, and then that's where it will escalate. That's where it will go out of control.
And the thing is even at the time, people were like, I don't like the way these people are going about rebellion. I'm still an Englishman, and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, 1/3 of the people said we're going to be patriots and fight this way. 1/3 of the people sided the other way, and 1/3 of the people stayed in the middle. Yeah. And then most of those end up being Americans, pretty happy with what they got.
Well, then it comes down to who do I side with? When it's pushed and it's okay, now it's on. Yeah. Who do we side with?
So there is a civil culture war. There is a civil social war. Whoever's in power, it kind of goes tit for tat, back and forth. Who's going to weaponize the FBI and make these accusations? Who's going to kind of have the leverage on the media? And how that's going to go. Now we know with these new financial plans that you're going to have a social score, and your financial persona is going to be based upon your, what do you look at on social media, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think we're leaning more towards greater division. I don't think these election seasons are bringing about more unity. And I think historically, if you look at in the past, sometimes people have felt like war brought about more prosperity and more unity. And so the powers that be might think, hey, we can correct errors with war, and we're pushing closer to war. And so, hopefully we would unify if we had to. Hopefully we wouldn't. But we are getting to a unique point in time. And I think that's why we wanted to point out this speech is an unprecedented, un-American, timely push to create more division, more uncertainty, and maybe leaning towards a bigger power grab and the changing or death rattle of old America. And yet it's couching itself as even the opposite, but that's really what it is. So let's close by saying, guys, how should we in the civic society, how should we address each other when we have opportunity to speak? Opposite this, what would be some rules? You've all been involved in speaking and civically and stuff, and what would you say, just a good simple rule that you would follow?
Well, I think of that old 90s song by Carmen, The Only Hope for America is Jesus.
Yeah.
Our hope is in the Lord. So if you have the opportunity to have that conversation, more than defending Donald Trump or the Republican Party or conservatism as a whole, point them to Christ, find scripture. By God's word says it will not return void. Yep. So in a conversation, don't strive to necessarily be right or defend the wrong thing. Point people to Christ. Get them an opportunity to see why you don't have fear, why you still have hope, because my hope is in the Lord. Yeah. And the answer is not Donald Trump coming back or DeSantis or any president. The hope is Jesus.
People always say, religion and politics don't mix, never speak about religion and politics, but it seems like the left and more the right, politics is their religion, or unbelief is their religion, and they have no problem pushing that forward. And so my role would be kind of, speak Christ. I'm going to speak what I believe, and I'm going to try to do it in a unifying fashion. I don't want to do it in a vilifying fashion. Obviously, he's pointing out who he thinks the bad guy is. Yeah.
Well, I would say that in my conversations that I've had with people, even in our community, who would not call themselves a Christian, the people that are hurting, that see what's happening, and they're like, man, I'm not a Republican, but I'm not identifying with this Democrat stuff either. They're finding themselves, I'm in the middle, which is I think where probably the majority of Americans really are. Sure. But they're hurting and they're looking for an answer. So I think it is a good opportunity for Christians to point them to Christ. Yeah. Again, don't get in these arguments about,
and certainly represent
politics,
Christ publicly.
Certainly, yeah.
Don't fall into that trap of Trumpian giving everyone a bad nickname.
Right, and when you can have that conversation one-on-one as opposed to a Facebook post, and there's nothing wrong with the Facebook post, or don't get goaded into the argument. You can have that one-on-one conversation and really have the opportunity to let them know how Christ in your life has affected real change and real hope, and point them there. I think it really is a more of a solution than trying to prove you know more about politics than them.
Right, Pastor Jason.
Well, as y'all were talking in there, I was just thinking, trying to find that Bible verse about be ready to give an answer for the hope that lieth within you. So we never apologize for the truth. Defend what's worth defending. This is why you ought to be careful to identify yourself with any personality outside the person of the Lord Jesus Christ. I can defend that. I can defend him all day long. Actually, he needs no defense. I can align with him any day long. So I don't have to hide or apologize for the truth. Right. I don't have to apologize for being a Christian. I don't have to apologize for believing the word of God. Be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear. And so there's that, with meekness and fear. And so what fear of God and meekness is respect. There's no reason to be disrespectful. Now, but that doesn't. I don't define disrespect as the world defines disrespect. Sure. So therefore, standing on truth is not hate.
Absolutely.
Nor is it disrespectful. Now, if I call your mama something,
right, that's personal.
And listen, we had a way to handle that back in the day.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and I think you guys have both said this, that here, trying to push a Bible culture and infuse Bible into culture, we're just saying that's not how it's done. But in all fairness, we said the same thing with Trump. That's not how it's done. We're having a leadership issue here, and if it is we the people have a problem, because we're wanting personality worship. We're wanting to pin our salvation on some political leader, and we want some sort of holy war that we can go about. And so now it is confusion, and the Bible says that God's not the author of that confusion.
Yeah. Well, and I say this a lot when I get asked to speak at conservative or Republican things or whatever, is because we want all the profit of liberty, but we don't want the person of liberty.
Right.
So we want all the benefits of Christianity. We want all the benefits of a Bible culture, but we reject the person of the Bible.
Right.
And the person of the Bible is the one who gets to tell you how to live your life.
Right.
And so, I'll tell you what's in common. You go to the Democrat event, you go to the Republican event, the after party is the same.
Sure.
The immorality is the same.
Sure.
The the drinking, the carousing, the sleeping around, all it's the same. It's the same. So morally, they're just as corrupt, both political ideas.
So, folks, if we are in that dark time where Biden's giving this dark and strange speech, and it's kind of like Nero fiddling and burning Rome, and we're at that point. Christians were persecuted at those points. Christians are blamed at that point, wrongly so. I mean, falsely accused, and yet Christians won. And so you have Christ. You might not have a political hero. You might not have a political party that can be a great home. But you have the Lord Jesus Christ. Ask him to help you in these upcoming elections, but you need spiritual discernment. And sometimes you don't have to take a side. You just pray that Jesus take over. And, we're certainly not inciting violence here. But unfortunately, our president has just, in an unprecedented manner, done that. We'll see what happens. Tune in to BibleNation.org. Come to our Bible Nation podcast. Communicate with us. Tell us what you think. We want to hear from you. And remember, the best culture is a Bible culture. It's proven, and it works.